Hi, and welcome to this short video titled, When Will Gold Prices Explode? So, people following gold, so some people have been following gold now for, way back since 2006, maybe even 1999. And the general philosophy behind why gold prices are going to explode is because the government's printing a lot of money. That's going to create inflation. It's going to push gold prices up. And then, it's been a bit of a shock to people following that line. We saw it push to 1900, but it's basically retracted since then. We're now standing around 1300, and in my opinion, I could see it's going back to 950, which kind of goes against the whole idea that, we're just creating a lot of inflation. There is inflation in the system, and gold prices should go up, and the dollar's going to die because of all this inflation. The first point I'd say is gold is not a hedge against inflation, per se. There's been many times, you can look back over the last 100 years, where we've had high inflation and gold prices have collapsed or done nothing. Equally, if you look in the 1970s, when gold prices increased massively, there was not the same commensurate inflation to match such a huge rise. So there isn't a very tight correlation between inflation and the gold price going up. What gold is a protection against systemic and government failure. So people will run to gold when they feel that the system, the political system and the financial system is failing, right? Now, that has been on the rise for the last few years, throughout the first 10 years of the 2000s, where we've seen, cracks forming in the system. Right, and people have generally focused on inflation. Now, the thing is where you might see inflation, high inflation, but that is also caused by systemic failure as well. So it's like, you're going to have inflation caused by the systemic failure. You're going to have high gold prices caused by the systemic failure, but the inflation does not cause the price of gold to go up. They're just both consequences of the systemic failure. So people, the focus of the conversation, certainly for the last 6 or 7 years, has been, well, the dollar's going to collapse and that's what's going to push gold up. But really, the dollar is going to be the last thing to go. You can see, systemic failure comes from governments collapsing, and it collapses by their own hand. So as government is frantically scrambling to survive, keep itself together, that is where the systemic failure is happening. So all over the world right now in 2014, you can see signs of this. And what's really going to erupt is what's happening in Europe. You can see that there's tension within the member states to break away. The EU will try and keep its power together, as governments always do. And this will be the cause of systemic failure. Now, that's not to say that's not going to happen in the US. It will happen in the US, but Europe is way weaker than the US relatively. Not to say that the US is extremely strong, it's just in a better position than Europe right now. So you're going to see Europe collapse in many ways, and then that will spread over here to the US. But it's not until that this systemic failure really starts taking off and becomes very, very apparent in major places like Japan, like Europe, and then the US, that you will see gold taking off. So I think we may have a couple of years more before we actually see this rise happen. Now, will this rise make me rich? I don't know, because if the rise in gold is caused by systemic failure, well, governments do not tend to give up power very easily. So what they do is they'll go after people, they'll tax people, and anybody who looks like they're making money or speculating may be taxed to the hilt. So all the profit you do make out of gold may be highly taxed, so I'll be aware of that. But in my opinion, the price of gold is not going to explode for maybe another year and a half, 2 years. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in the next video.